Jack, I'll ask you to do this, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ask for a moment of silence for Claire Phillips, Rosemary Biscardi, Blanche Wells Flack, and Jim Beatty. And all right, thank you. And at this point, before we get started, I would like to introduce our town clerk to you. I'm not even sure if everybody on the board has met her yet, but I want to make sure they do. Megan Bowman. She's been here since I think July, working a few days at a time, and now she's on board for the regular hours of postage. She's been working very closely with Nancy, who I think has been an excellent mentor that are headed in the right direction. So I just want to make sure that you all know Josh Patchett is on the end. Well, Jack Bass, Marty Fitzgerald, Steve Vermont. I know some of you've met. I wasn't sure about the other ones. Yeah. So this is her debut tonight. So I want to make sure you all know. Okay, I'm going to start with the public hearing first. And so I need a motion for us to open the public hearing. All right, second to that motion. Jack, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. As is required, the notice for the public hearing was posted in the Post-Star. I'm not going to attempt to read the whole thing tonight because it's such small print. I don't think I'd ever get to the end of it. So what I'm going to do is start first with Mr. Jarrett, who's going to explain what's happening. I then have a letter from Tony Franco that I want to read you, and then I have another letter from Cedarwood that I also want to read. So we have a bit to do, and Mr. Jarrett, if it works better for you to come around this way with your map for my board members, I'm very happy with that because they're the ones who really need to know what's happening.
I'm sorry, this is a good spot.
It is, but if they can't see it, you might have to just kind of walk around this way, okay?
Good evening, my name is Tom Jarrett. I'm with Jarrett Engineers, representing Jamie Jordan and Michael Wu. They own the property at the southern end of Sabbath Day Point. This diagram, the cover sheet is used to provide a setting for the property. Their existing wastewater system is on the east side of their house. I'll come back to that in a minute. The new system, which we propose further to the north along their driveway, between the driveway and the neighboring property to the west, requires 9 variances. Sounds like a lot. 5 of them relate to property lines, so they're relatively mundane in my opinion. They're setbacks to property lines and setbacks to construction. 3 of them involve variances to water supplies. 3 wells, the Luke Jordan well, as well as 2 neighboring wells. Putting it in perspective, if the existing system that's there today was proposed now, it would require 8 variances. 4 of them would be to water supplies, 2 to Lake George and 2 to water supplies to wells. So the variances to the property lines are that we need for the new system are the septic tank to the property line and the Luke Jordan's house, the pump station from the property line to the Luke Jordan house. That's 4 variances for those tanks. Those 2 tanks and 4 variances, property line and house. And then the wastewater system itself requires a variance to the property line on the west. It's a little less than the requirement. So that's 5 of the variances. And again, the 3 variances that we need are 2 wells. Now, the system we propose needs enhanced treatment unit technology. It's a PureFlow, an Anua manufactured PureFlow system. It's a peat-based system. It's a peat filter, essentially. Like a sand filter, but in many ways more effective than a sand filter. Peat-based, using Irish peat, not North American peat, which the pores stay open longer. They provide a better treatment matrix than conventional peat that we buy in a landscaping store. And then, once it passes through the peat-based system, it goes into the soil beneath the system, and we've sized that dispersal pad, we call it, based on the soil characteristics underneath. One of the comments I think that's going to come up in a second is the setback from the force main, which is the pressure pipe between the pump station and the treatment system, that to the neighboring well. I listed it as 2 feet on the drawings to be conservative, because at that time I didn't know where the property line was. The owners have since pointed out where the property line is, and the real separation is going to be about 10 to 12 feet. It's 7 feet from the well to the property line, their property, the neighbor's property line. And then we're going to be an additional 3 to 5 feet inside the Luke Jordan property. So it's going to be 10 to 12 feet, not 2 feet, which I listed, which is better for all parties, both property owners. Mr. DeFranco wrote a letter on behalf of the neighbor, questioning that variance, and I think there were a couple of ideas or alternatives presented. I have not actually seen Tony's letter, but I'm sure that'll come out in a second. And I don't know, we can discuss that now or wait until you read the letter.
Well, do you want me to read the letter now, then we can move forward with?
Why don't you read the letter and then we can move forward with all.
Let me do that. Dear Town Board members of Hague, this letter is to acknowledge that William and Carolyn Fisher at the parcel 93.16-1-35 have retained my services to review the following plans for a replacement wastewater treatment system. And we have the following concerns with the initial design of the layout of the force main, and would request that the homeowner and their engineer try to comply with our request prior to approving any variances for the following system. It is our understanding that the map parcels number 93.16-1-36 and 93.16-1-37 were subdivided long ago by the Moses family, which created the 2 non-conforming lots in the current conditions of the site. The Town of Hague should not overlook the amount of variances requested and require a more thorough site survey of this parcel, and not only rely on GIS or Warren County tax map. The number of variances could potentially be reduced by looking at various alternatives with a redesign of the system. Before the town board even considers a variance, let alone 9 variances, an actual boundary and topographic survey should be conducted by a licensed land surveyor for the parcel at 46 Saturday Point Road. The close proximities of the existing utilities, specifically the existing septic force main and the proposed location of the new septic force main to the Fisher's drinking water source is extremely close. It's like 2 feet of horizontal separation distance when New York State Department of Health requires a 50-foot horizontal separation distance. Typically, in a self-created hardship, the Town of Hague would require the homeowner to provide an improved horizontal setback to the neighboring drinking well and request that the owner of the property place the septic force main or leach field closer to their own drinking source, since it is a self-created hardship. In the current scenario that is depicted on the plans, a pure flow leach field potentially could be shifted further to the northwest of its current location to provide a greater horizontal separation distance from the Luke Jordan leach field to the Fisher's drinking well. The proposed leach field would then be located in a similar location to the neighboring leach field. Based on that consideration, we would request that the homeowner and their engineer reroute the septic force main around the lakefront side of the house and run the force main along the western side of the property to provide a greater separation distance from the Fisher's drinking source and provide approximately the same horizontal separation distance from the Luke Jordan's drinking sources. By relocating the force main or reconfiguring the plumbing under the house, it is potentially possible to eliminate or reduce the number of variances required for the project. However, it really cannot be determined until an actual topographic and boundary survey is completed for the parcel in question. The Town of Hague and the design engineer should not leave it up to the contractor to coordinate force main routing on the parcel as depicted on sheet WW1. The location of the force main should be installed in the recommended location, and if it cannot be located in that location, the homeowner and his design engineer should report that to the Town of Hague as the local Department of Health prior to installing the proposed force main in another location. Thank you for considering reviewing our current concerns with the situation in current design. So, Mr. Jarrett, I don't know if you want to speak to that first before I read the latest thing that I just got from Cedarwood. Which would you prefer to do?
Why don't you read the Cedarwood letter?
This is the latest. My board has the one that came this morning.
The
I
ink
got
is still
this.
wet on this one?
Pardon me?
The ink is still wet?
Pretty much. I just ran it off when I came in here. We spoke with the design engineer and discussed the option of running a force main around the other side of the house. He's going to look at the site on the way to the meeting tonight and see if it's possible to run it on the other side based on the layout and physical constraints. He left us with the impression that if it's feasible to run it around the other side, that it may be an acceptable option. If the site constraints make it not feasible to run the force main around the other side of the house, we discussed enhancing the proposed mitigation measure of sleeving the force main in the area of the neighboring well. Cedarwood recommends that the following is one potential mitigation alternative. The sleeve would be extended an additional 30 feet in each direction, sealed at each end, and the interstitial space of the sleeve section would be monitored and semi-annually as part of the O&M contract. This monitoring would identify a possible leak prior to the discharge to the soil near the neighboring well. But if the design engineer states that the option of running the force main around the other side of the house is not feasible, he needs to provide a written statement explaining why it is not feasible and the reason cannot be based on cost. i.e., running it that way would potentially undermine the basement, it's all ledge, etc. So that was their reaction. They're not as much in favor of moving it around as doing something with that force main with the sleeve. So now we'll come back to you again.
Okay, so let's back up. So we did look at all alternatives for treatment technologies and location. And this, frankly, we thought was the best balance of all the variances needed and the technology to protect those water supplies and those neighboring properties. If we move the treatment system to the northwest, as is suggested in one comment, turn this right side up, that would be helpful. So north is to the top of the page here. The lake is down by the lake, it circles around. South is here. The house is right here, and the tank, the existing wastewater system is right here. The Fisher house is right here, and their well is right there. The existing wastewater system is much too close to the Fisher well already. The whole system, tanks and bleaching devices, are too close to the Fisher well. It's been like that for years and years and years. We are proposing routing the effluent from this septic tank to a treatment device here. We can't really move it further to the northwest because that would encroach more on the Mansour well, the other neighbor. This is a balance that we thought best met everybody's needs and best protected the water supply. Now, as far as the alternative to protect the Fisher well, it probably is, I'm not going to conclude absolutely, but it probably is physically feasible to route the pipe around the lake side of the house. Not a practical alternative. I don't favor it. It's tight right here in the southwest corner. A maximum of 10 feet from the house to the property line. You have to run a pipe through there, but probably physically feasible. I think the better alternative is to extend the sleeve that we call for in our design. You may have seen it in the plan. We call for a sleeve that's 20 feet either side of the well. Tom Swaswell of Cedarwood and I discussed extending that to 50 feet either side of the well, sealing it and putting the monitoring port in there and checking it routinely. That to me is a much more feasible, practical solution, and that's what I would favor.
Tony, you're here. I read the letter. I don't know if you would like to speak on behalf of your clients.
I'm Tony DeFranco. I'm here representing Carolyn and Bill Fisher. I guess our concern when they came to me is with a number of variances, our biggest concern really is with what is being asked for on these variances, the distances. You really don't know based on GIS and past map information. We'd like to see a full-blown survey done to really dial in exactly what the setbacks are before we move forward. I think I know this area very well. I'm going to be designing a septic system for the Fishers here very shortly. I've worked at the Garnier site, Mansour, up to the west of this parcel, and their septic system has you've already approved with variances to put their septic system within, I'm gonna say 20 feet of their well, literally across the driveway.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking at it like, there's a tree there that is disrupting the driveway. If that is removed and the leach field is shifted to kind of align with the other leach field, it will improve the setback to Tom's client's well, plus my client on the west. I also work to the east. I also work to the west with Mansour and Garnier. I think they kind of understand that their well and their setback to their septic and to this septic is going to be tight. I think from a constructability point, I'm not sure how you can get an excavator in on the west side of there. I think it's more practical to come around the east side and then work your way around the lake side and over there. It's fairly tight on that west side, Tom.
It's tight here as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tighter over there than it is on the west side.
But that's the garage, not the basement of the house. This is the basement of the house, that's the garage. So there's
Correct.
a difference regarding pipe separation of that.
So I don't think you're gonna get a mini excavator over on that.
No, you're not gonna get a mini excavator all the way through there, they're gonna do some of this by hand.
Yeah. I think our concern is with the plans, we'd like to see a topographic boundary survey to know exactly where everything is. Because we're doing a survey on the east side. We have a survey on the east side. We know where our well is. We knew it was more than plus or minus 2 feet.
Well, I didn't, but I physically measured to each of these devices measured from our area to each of the wells, so I know that. I don't think the survey is gonna add anything right
I just think when it's got this many variances, it's not a bad idea for the town and all parties involved to have a full-blown survey. It's the cost. It's similar to what we're looking at here, whether we sleeve it or not.
Well, what is your feeling to?
If I was designing this, I would get a survey done. That's my professional opinion. I think it's in his client's best interest, my client's best interest. That's just how I feel personally.
Let me ask you a question, okay, Tom, and both of you guys. So, with a survey right now, and you're gonna be doing a system over here for Fishers again also. So wouldn't it be incumbent upon a survey for Fishers as well as these folks? So why don't you guys just,
We've already done our survey.
oh, you've already had it?
We've had ours done.
Yeah,
Oh, I guess they want you to split a survey.
No, I'm not looking at, they've already done their survey. They've done their due diligence. My concern is with some of the notes
Right.
on the plans, it's leaving up to the contractor to field run that force main when we're already plus or minus 2 feet to the property line. I think it's in the town's best interest to dial that in so that it doesn't end up on the property line.
Right.
And that's kind of what I'm just looking at.
With all due respect, number one, Cedarwood has agreed that the survey is really immaterial at this point, not really that beneficial. Number two, the owners pointed out pins in the field that I had not seen before. They were hidden by vegetation. Now I've seen the pins and we measured from those pins to the neighbor's well. It measures 7 feet. And we're now going to be about 3 to 5 feet inside our property. So we'll get 10 to 12 feet from that well. And I know where the property line is now because I found a pin.
Right, because it says in one back there, right?
So with all due respect, I don't think the survey adds anything.
Without doing a full survey, couldn't a surveyor just come and take the description of the property and mark it based on that description? When a property is surveyed, they go, it's northwest, 28 degrees in this direction, and without having a full surveyor, a surveyor could go and just, hey, place markers, and that would alleviate Tony's concern without having a full-blown survey.
No, they need to do the whole property survey before they'll set things. They will not. Unless they did the original survey, and I know that there's been no changes to any of the pins, they won't do that, they'll resurvey the property.
Steve, let's just come up the line. Jack, you have a question? Okay, Marty, comments?
No,
Okay, Steve,
I'm just gonna keep talking about the survey for a second, you know, Tony pointed out, there is a survey done, so if he has the survey done for the Fisher property, obviously it's the same boundary line as a property where you're gonna put this on. So wouldn't you just work off of the survey that he has done it?
Presumably we could, unless there's a dispute, we don't have a survey, we can't dispute it, but we could work on that survey if you provide.
I mean, I would, yeah, tell him.
If I can,
Tony.
there are some discrepancies down between these 3 or 4 lots with how it got subdivided. I fairly recall that there's a few issues, maybe not with this one, but one of these parcels down there. So I'm just trying to do some due diligence here on everybody's part, that's all.
Again, I know we can get 10 feet physically from their well. Now, where the property line is a technicality, but I know we can get 10 feet physically from their well.
And what is the main line distance from the property line right now?
Main line.
Sleeve.
Well,
The
it's
current
not-
sleeve, what is the distance?
There's no sleeve right there now. The existing system is right there where the tanks, the new tanks are shown.
Okay,
The existing leaching system and the tank is right there, which is, too close to the Fisher well. We need to run a pipe by there to get to our treatment place in the new system. So it's sort of complicated. There's a lot of variables, a lot of factors here, but there's no pipe there now.
all right, like then, well, if there's anyone else in the audience that wishes to make a comment,
And the owners are here, they may wish to weigh in.
feel free. If you'd like to say anything, we'll be more than happy for you to stand and state your case or how you feel about it or what you think we should be looking at.
Well, thank you. I'm Michael Luke. I'm surprised that this has simply arisen in the last 48 hours. And the fact that there's you're suggesting there's some discrepancy in the property line, Tony.
I'm
Excuse me,
saying specifically this one, like,
I haven't
in
finished
this
it,
whole
Tony.
subdivision down there.
Tony, I haven't finished. I think it would have been somewhat more cooperative if that information had been shared before now. We're just trying to do the right thing with our property. And I'm also surprised that any suggestion that a revised plan would take a pipe around the house towards the lake seems to me to be amazing. When everyone has told us, and we've been in this property for 21 years, that anything going towards the lake is to be avoided. So that is a mystery to me that you would suggest going towards the lake, around the house,
Or we
within,
can,
excuse me, Tony, I haven't finished, around the house is outstanding. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jane Jordan. And I do just want to point out that right now, obviously, we're having this conversation because we have a failed leach system. And so, to me, the longer that we exist in that circumstance is a high risk. I mean, because of the positioning of it right now and the proximity to water, both household water and the lake water, that seems like that's a risk to me. And what we would like to do is, remove the risk. And if there are, and mitigate whatever we need to mitigate in order to successfully solve the fact that we have a failed leach field right now. Maybe I just wanted to find out.
Let me qualify that.
Go ahead.
They are treating it as a temporary holding tank. They're pumping that tank out. They're not discharging, for lack of a better term, willy-nilly to the environment. They're using it as a temporary holding tank. They just wish to correct this problem as soon as possible in a permanent fashion. Better, best for everybody.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, and concern, I want to ask one question, there was talk about sleeving and like casing it, extending, you're familiar with that from other jobs that you've done, I'm sure, right, Tom?
Yes,
And that's worked successfully to your knowledge, other places?
I think there's other alternatives to possibly replumb if there's a basement under the house and bring it out the west side and not go in front of the house. I stated that in this letter. I don't want my information getting misconstrued.
Right, but that's not the question, the question is.
But I'm saying that's a better option. That's a better option to get that force main 30 or 40 feet away. And it probably still should be encased over there because it's within 100.
But the question I'm asking you is, you're familiar with the sleeving of these situations, and if you had a problem with sleevings before, that you can see that it might not work here. So, I mean, if that's a situation that you've used them before, in a tight situation, would that not suffice? No, I'm just trying to ask you.
I think it's a backup. It's only going to be monitored annually, so if there is a problem, it's not going to be seen. Quite honestly, it might not ever be seen if somebody doesn't go out and look at it.
Well, that's a question, that was the next question, if there is.
I've never been this close to somebody's well when I sleep.
Right,
We've crossed maybe a water line or something in a municipal situation. Where
but
you
historically, sleeving, as you see before, when you sleep, they function properly?
It depends, I really can't answer that.
Two factors, but throw it in the mix.
Can you
One is-
explain how the sleeve works?
Yeah. Are you familiar with the term double containment piping that they use in petroleum, or around landfills and petroleum fields and petroleum refineries and storage yards? This is very similar. We would be doing it by hand, sleeving it by hand as opposed to buying a double wall pipe. But same principle. Now, the big risk is during construction. You can damage it during construction. Now, we plan on pressure testing that pipe when it goes in. We'll know right away whether there's a problem. And if it's pressure tested as watertight, it likely will stay that way unless somebody digs there with a backhoe, and that's what the sleeve would help protect. But it's not going to break on its own classically when you're talking about high density polyethylene pipe. Rigid pipe, brittle pipe, yes, but not high density polyethylene. We use fusion weld joints. These are welded joints. So there's no joint to pull apart either. So it's really a very, very sound system. This picture, by the way, these two pictures show the proximity. That's the Fisher house, right? Jordan house is over here. Property line is in this. The well is right in there. This goes the other side of that. So there's the area we'd be putting the pipe in. What happens, we have to hug that garage as best we can.
Right.
But we can get separation to that well.
I'm wondering if, there's some confusion, not confusion, but just not understanding at all. Do you think we should leave the public hearing open until next month?
I just have a question of what's the time frame that you guys are looking to have this system installed?
They had wanted to get this in this fall,
Now that we're into October,
yeah, so,
probably not gonna happen until,
well, it can be built depending on the winter, it can be built this winter.
well, if you're gonna be digging by hand.
Only a portion of it, that can be started, that will be done in frozen ground.
I mean, I live up there too, so I know.
I guess I'm just, personally, I believe these surveys, especially if it's something that's this close. If we got a time frame that we could stretch out a month, because I don't know how long it takes to get this unit in. It's something that it's on the shelf and somebody can buy it for tomorrow.
It's normally about 2 to 3 weeks, I don't think there's a delivery problem right now, but there's delivery problem everywhere, so I don't know.
And if we delayed another month, and maybe they got a survey done, that would help. I mean, I agree, so this is pretty close. I
Yeah,
mean,
there's no
up
doubt.
that area, and their houses are on top of each other. And there's septic and water lines and all over the place up there. I mean,
Again, the survey is probably gonna tell us where it is in relation to the property line officially.
correct,
Not gonna tell us
which makes it easier, so we define whether it's 10 feet, 12 feet, 15 feet.
No, that's based on the physical proximity of the house to the well, which already.
Right, but you know what I'm saying, I mean, at least it's on. That's just my opinion of survey, I mean, we make people get surveys for fence on it, so. At least it was when I was on the planning board, I don't know if they still do that or not, but. I just didn't know that there wasn't a survey done on this
No.
to start with, so.
Almost doesn't make sense. My feeling, I would like to leave this public hearing open for the month, and come back to it next month, see if we have some more information, see if anything has taken place. Mr. Jarrett. and his
Right, I
colleagues.
mean, the information came to us pretty quick.
Well, it did. In fact, the one from Tony, I just got when I got into the office like at 9 o'clock this morning, which doesn't give you an awful lot of time. And I shot a copy off to Tom and shot a copy off to Cedarwood to say, hey, this is what we're dealing with now. So
So if you do table it, what are you gonna require of us?
I just one more question. If Tony's folks did a survey, you're talking on the same boundary line, am I not correct?
Yes.
So why wouldn't you be able to use that survey?
because Tony
It
said-
hasn't been made available.
Well, if it's made available, I mean, wouldn't that expedite the whole situation?
It doesn't encompass the whole parcel.
It only does the one line. Doesn't it? It's like-
I can tell you there, over at 007 Bay Point, there's a 4 to 5 foot discrepancy in the property lines going along the lake shore. So it's just something when I got this very late too, you know, I got an email basically last night, like, are you going, you know, we talked, the
Right.
homeowner, we'd like you to write a letter. So I typed this up at 1, 2 in the morning last night, and it hit me when I was doing it, that I was like, there is a survey that I'm aware of from 007 Bay Point, that is 2 parcels over to the east, and there's a 5 to 6 foot discrepancy between the original Dickinson survey. Dickinson did the subdivision all through here, and there's quite a bit
discrepancies.
of, that's a lot of 50 to 70 foot parcel there.
Again, I want record that a survey will show us where it is in relation to the property line. It will not show us where the pipeline will be in relation to the line. That I know I can establish based on physical measurements in the field myself.
Well, we need to make a decision.
Well, so survey is, in your opinion, irrelevant on that boundary line.
And Cedar would agree.
Yeah, they didn't really see the necessity for the search, but I
I
think.
tend to disagree if you don't know where, if you're asking for all these variances on various sides of the property line, if you don't have a survey, you can't honestly say that you know exactly where that
But that's
is.
why I
In
asked
relation to
you-
each property.
Right, that's why I asked
You
you.
can't say it is where it is in relation to the property line, but you can say where it is in relation to the pipeline, which is the key we're worried about.
All right, but there's other setbacks we're looking for on other property lines, we're just kind of willy-nilly putting it out there.
I mean, the key is that this charged line should be as close to their house as possible and furthest away from the well, regardless of what the survey tells us.
Regardless of where the property line is.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's correct.
So are you as close?
Yes,
to
we
their
are
house
going
as
to go as
humanly-
close, you can make that a condition of whatever action you take, is it move it practically as close to the garage as possible. We're fine with that. The only thing we have to worry about is the power line. We may have to jockey the power line a little bit, but we can get pretty close to that garage.
So if that's the case, you know, would that satisfy Fishers, Tony? I mean, we want to help these folks because again,
They're making the effort.
they're making the effort to do it because, they're right now containing everything they have pumped out.
Based on what I see on the plans, I feel like there could be some more due diligence to see if you can replumb underneath that house and run that line on that east side. I don't think that's been ever explored. Tom can answer that for you.
Around the house is one option. What Tony's referring to is going through the house, through the basement too, I think.
Yeah.
Which I discussed with the owner months ago, and I didn't favor it. They don't like the idea, and Cedarwood doesn't like the idea. I specifically discussed it with Tom Swazo, and he doesn't like that idea either. We never run a pipe through a basement unless we have to.
I can understand it.
You'd run it right through the basement?
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
what we
Tony
have to
Not
do.
under, but right through the basement?
I'm talking about reconfiguring the sanitary pipe that's already down there. It's not bringing a new pipe, not the force main, Tom. It's like come out
We still have to come out
the west side, put it in a septic tank, and pump station. That's what I'm talking about.
then we'd be very close to their well. So I guess that's your point, okay, I mean, that's,
So I guess this board has to decide what direction we want to go in.
And then one quick question, does the homeowner have the right just to fix their existing system as it stands?
What do you do? They have.
Meaning just keep it in the same location as it currently is? I forget your name.
Jamie and Michael.
Jamie and Michael established they have a failing system. Do they have the right just to fix it in the exact location that it's in? Or is that?
I don't think so. I couldn't stand corrected. I don't think so.
Does anyone here know the answer to that
It's
question?
done some places, but I'm not sure they do.
Do they have the right to fix it
They
in
can
its
fix
current
it, but they
location?
need to come in and get a variance for all these.
I was gonna say,
steps.
that's right, and that's what
why
they
they
did.
Another variance for the same exact situation.
If they put it right back in the same spot, they have to come and get whatever number of variances.
Eight variances,
Yeah.
Right.
So
including then the leaching system would be within 40 feet of the Fisher well.
we're headed in the right direction. You.
This is
as
an
town
improvement,
board-
right?
You as a town board, as local Department of Health would then say, are there any other options? Explore the options. I'm just saying here, let's just do a little more thorough, get the survey, dial it in, explore that option through the house. And I think my client would be happy if we can get that force main, over on the other side, where it's the same distance from their well as it is my client's well. I think they were unaware how close it was to their well, even when they bought their property. They did a survey and picked up where their well was, but surveyors don't necessarily pick up where leach fields are. So it was kind of one of these things that they were concerned about after they asked me if I would be concerned if there was a force main within 2 feet of my well, and I was like, I believe I wouldn't be too happy, or even 9 feet, it should be 100,
Well, I sort of feel like the question is, I mean, I guess the survey would be good, but the question is it possible to do what Tony's saying, to run the plumbing through the basement? Is
But would
that-
you want that to happen in your house?
It's
I
already
mean,
in
we're
there.
telling you you
Well, we're not
have to.
talking about the force main.
I'm not
We're
talking about force
He's
main.
talking about redesigning. the
Redesigning
whole
the
system,
septic tank.
tanks on the other
We
side.
do that quite frequently. I've done it on 2 or 3 systems.
Okay,
Is the cost feasible?
I don't know, I have them in their basements and all,
Right.
but a plumber can do that fairly, it's a 1-day job, sometimes maybe 2.
Right. I mean, that just logically sounds like a good idea.
Two of them
What you
has to
say?
go. I would recommend that we keep the public hearing open and let Tony
and Tom, see what they can come up with.
and see what they come up with.
One last factor to put in perspective, it's not gonna change what you decide to do, but the standard for 50 feet, which is a little unfair, the health department DEC standard, but that was developed years and years and years ago when we had pipes that were old cast iron pipes that leaked and cracked and broke. These new pipe systems that we use are have much better integrity than the old system. So 50 feet is not a really applicable number, even though we're stuck living with it. So,
But if they rework the plumbing in that house, it would be closer to their well, is that what you said before?
Yeah.
And you know how many feet would it be to their home well?
not offhand, it would be probably on the order of 20 feet. Maybe less, but maybe 20 feet.
And then you just have a pump station and then.
Septic tank and
send
pump
it to the
station.
same spot you're already proposed.
I would think.
Well, I think we're gonna go with Marty's idea. We're gonna leave it open for the month, maybe Tom and Tony, and you can get together with Cedarwood again. And if you're saying to me, what exactly do we want? I guess we're just looking for a solution that works for everybody, that works for your client, that Tony's client is happy with. And, we had input from Cedarwood, which they didn't have, a lot to say about it. I mean, they went out, they were at the property. I was here the day they came and went up to check out the property. So it's not like they didn't go there to see what those variants were asking for. But Nancy, if we leave that open, do we have to have like a motion that's?
Why don't we do one to be safe?
Make
So
a,
Martin, you made the motion?
Yes, please.
and somebody second that motion? Jack, that we leave the public hearing open until November. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
All right, so what you're going to do is to coordinate with Tony, and Cedarwood to come up with a situation that's good for the folks here and is good for Fishers. So Would that work for you folks? I mean, to have a neighborly situation where everybody gets together, and comes up with a situation that's amicable? And we don't want to keep having, delaying you off, but again, we want to make sure it's right.
This is the court, we're just trying to do the right thing.
I understand, I appreciate it.
We hired the services of Tom Jarrett as our engineer.
Yes.
So I don't think it's a matter of three parties getting together. I think the engineers may wish to talk to each other.
Correct.
I'll take that under advisement from Tom.
I think you're right on that
Thank
one.
you.
Thank you very much for being
Thanks for
understanding, Jack.
You know, I appreciate the creativity that's gone into this and the ideas that have come up. And if they could be promulgated to the board more than the day of the board meeting, it
I
would be
agree.
helpful for us to consider all that. Only not having to stay up until 2 o'clock tonight. So that we can all work together to get the right answer.
All right, thanks for your time. Let's try to see what we can do to.
Thank you.
I have a question. So we have not seen, the letter from Tony. Obviously, if you only got it at 8 or 9 o'clock this morning, we have not seen that, and we request a copy of it.
Absolutely.
To be able to have in writing what the objections are and the suggestions, and then there's also any follow, I can you reference one from.
Cedarwood's letter too.
So we can get their
That one from
comments as well.
Cedarwood's
You
letter.
want to see the one too?
Yes, that makes sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome, I'm sure. All right, we'll see you all next month. I'm sorry, Tom, it didn't work out, but I think you need to get together with your
Yeah, we'll
clients
start
first.
out where we can.
Okay, thank you very much. So Nancy, we don't have to do anything more on that then, right? As long as we make motions and leave it open?
As far as I know,
We're making copies
that's,
for you now, folks, you know that.
that's
Okay.
what the planning board will do. They'll just leave it open.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, but I want to be sure, but thank you. Okay, fellas, we're gonna move along then. We'll go on to, I need a motion to pay the general highway and sewer claims in the amount of $173,205.57. Someone like to make that motion? Already made the motion, second to the motion. Jack, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. I need a motion to accept the minutes as printed, subject to corrections for September 14th, 2021. All right, you made the motion, second to the motion? Okay, thank you, second. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? All right, we'll vote then. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And I'll, as I finish up the minutes from the first budget meeting, I'll make sure those are included. Pardon me? What was that? No, just go on the side.
Back.
Okay, yep. Okay, so let's go on to our committee reports. I put a copy of the assessor's report in the folder. They're waiting on a camera and a memory card. They're gonna go out in the field this fall to assess the completed projects, and she's worked on address changes, property transfer, so I put that in the folder. Nothing new on finance and insurance, so we'll go right into buildings and grounds. Marty? Josh, have anything?
Do not.
Thank you. Let's see. I'm gonna leave highway till Tim comes back. He can maybe fill us in. Josh, museum.
I have nothing.
You have nothing. Jack, personnel.
We are still looking for a clerk for the ZEO office. We probably had one and it did not pan out, so we're posting that again. Right?
Yes, we are. And if you didn't go out today, it will definitely go out tomorrow.
And in spite of repeated requests, we have not had any volunteers step forward to help moderate the Zoom session.
Oh, that's right. You were looking for that too. You didn't get anybody.
That position, that public position is still open.
Okay, Tim, we're gonna come back to you. We don't see anybody else here.
Question for this.
All right, well, until we get there. Tim, you want to fill us in a little bit on the highway?
Over a period of about 6 months, we put up McCoy and Dodge Hills on hold due to permitting trout conditions being the Class A trout stream. We'll be doing that in the spring, but all when the snow melt off. What was it? We're getting ready for the winter, gearing up for the winter. We got our Salt Summit coming up
Thursday, right?
Thursday. We had met with Kib, we are refining. We're gonna be the first municipality in a small town that's gonna run one route as pure liquid.
Oh.
We're gonna try to reduce our numbers again on secondary roads. Just to prove that grinding does work and we can use it throughout a storm due to weather conditions. So we just put together a new pump system today. We worked hard at it, and we've got, there's no significant number, but we have our number that we're gonna work with. Other than that, we got the May Cemetery hydrant seeded. We saved the town
Oh, did you?
$3,800 in material. The Warren County Soil and Water come over and
Wonderful.
helped us with getting
Great. I
that
didn't
taken care
realize
of. We
that.
did spots out here, but that's not gonna take the crabgrass. We're
Right.
trying to find a way to eliminate the crabgrass because it's gonna choke out the grass that was planted. Or the thing it's gonna take.
Very good.
Other than that, we're gearing up for winter.
Okay, thank you kindly. Enjoy the Salt Summit. It's okay, planning, zoning, stormwater, we don't have anything. Have to get Matt on board with getting us a little written report once a month, just so we know what he's been up to. All right, Steve, town park beautification.
Well, closing the launch this week, and
Mhm.
that'll be good, and the building will be shut down. And really, that's really all that's going on about there right now.
Okay, thank you. Jack, sewer district 1 and 2.
Nothing new to report.
Okay, they're still working on the project, so that WQIP grant, so if you look through the bills tonight, you'll see there were quite a few, and we prepared them with some of those things. Okay, Steve, anything under environmental concerns? Oh, sewer, you wanted to ask about.
Yeah, I got a question, Jack. When the EDUs were going, and we had Sears up there, remember?
Mhm.
They took the parts that were in question out and removed them, but the EDU stayed the same. And she has a question on that. I'm gonna forward you the email I just got for today, because when I went over there, they were taking it apart, and I brought that up at the meeting. They took it out, and the EDU never was reduced.
Is it-
We discussed that it was gonna stay the same this
Until next
current
year.
year, and then next year it's gonna go down.
Yes,
Also, it's too late to change, so
Yes,
in
we-
2022, it will be reduced.
right.
That's what I thought I
And
understood.
that's exactly what we said to her.
All
Yes,
right,
that's
so
right.
I'll make a clarification. Then. She thought it was immediate, so
No, it
in
wasn't.
January, it will be reduced.
Yeah, because I thought she said she already paid her bill.
Right,
Yeah, that's what she said. She paid the bill for this year. We said you won't see a difference in it until next year.
okay, good. Just want to get a clarification. Thank you.
Mhm, you're welcome.
There is something I forgot to add.
Yes,
We
sir.
had gone to highway school
Oh, that's right.
last couple weeks ago, and New York State is going to be following California, and they're going to be running 0 green emissions on all vehicles.
Really?
They're trying to get it started by 2025 and have it implemented by 2035. So all vehicles that we purchase
We'll have to
are
have
going
this
to go through an entire change, so we have to start thinking
and
about
more expensive.
more expensive, different technology, newer technologies. Find out about your grants, because we're gonna need those charging stations. And I don't know if I'm gonna be wanting to drive a battery operated truck that runs at 50% with 18
I know,
tons on
I know. Doesn't the government do wonderful things sometimes?
it. Like I use a little remote control car.
All right, Steve, I'm sorry. Did you have anything under environmental concerns? Are we all good at that? Okay, let's move on to then communications and petitions. We have a request from AARP to use the large meeting room for the tax year. We have a letter from Jan Whitaker that was saying how she appreciated that we let them use the big room with their clients as well as the volunteers find that it's very helpful for them to be here. They worked on the masking, the sanitizing, social distance. They did really a great job of that. So they're requesting permission again to use the large meeting room in the community center for tax year 2021 tax return preparation from early February to late April 2022. They intend to follow the procedure we used last season for the tax return preparation by appointments only, no walk-ins. And again, we'll adhere to required town, county, and state of COVID restrictions. So if no one has any objections, so if someone wants to make the motion to give.
I don't have any objection, but are they going to pick up so that you guys can have your town board meetings?
Oh, yeah, they're very good about it.
Okay, I just,
Yeah, no, they're good. If we say we have a town board meeting before they leave that afternoon, Jack can vouch for that. They make sure everything is taken care of from back where it's supposed to be. Yeah, I will tell you, Marty, they are really a wonderful group to work
I
with.
mean, last year we didn't have
Oh, that's right.
any meetings, so.
Yeah, and they didn't start theirs, so it was almost summertime before they finished up whatever happened. Okay, so would someone like to make that motion for me?
So moved.
Thanks, Josh. A second? Jack, all those in favor? Aye, opposed, carried. All right, the next one, Marty, we talked about this before, we're down to new business. We have a resolution to name abandoned road Forest Lane, so the owner can obtain a 911 address. I believe all of you got a copy of the email. And the resolution is dated September 1st, and it's to name the abandoned road, and it's going to be named Forest Lane. And
It'll be a private road, it won't be anything to do with the town.
no, exactly, private road, right, but it's just they need to get the name in order to get their 911 address. So if someone would like to make a motion to approve that resolution, Jack, second to that,
Second.
second Marty, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Next resolution is resolved that the town board amend the town budget for the fiscal year 2021 by increasing miscellaneous safety item DO 140-420 by $1,000 and decreasing machinery rental DAO 5130-410 by $1,000. So it's a transfer within highway. So we're to make that motion. Steve made the motion, second by Jack. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. The last one, we can't do anything with, but I do need to go back to say if there's anyone in the audience that would like to, has something that they would like to present to the board. And Ginger, did you have anybody on Zoom?
Yeah, nobody wants to say anything.
Oh.
But I'm gonna say something.
We'll let you talk then.
Okay, so I just wanted to update the board on the Lakeshore Park Commission's addressing of the septic inspection.
Oh, okay, good.
Because some of the towns have a representative, so they've set a subcommittee, and they've been meeting once a month. The Lakeshore Park Commission appointed a subcommittee of commissioners, but they also appointed an advisory committee that's pretty big, and actually Tom Jarrett is on it,
Mhm.
as is Chris Levitsky, as engineers, and then they have government representatives and a business representative. I'm not on it, I didn't go to all the meetings, so I thought because we passed a resolution asking the park commission to address this, that I would just update you all. So, like I say, they've been meeting monthly, and at the last meeting, which was last week, they actually decided to move forward and recommend to the park commission that it's gonna be a lot to take care of, because they've got to decide how far back
Right.
septic systems should be inspected, or how close, I should say. Also, as we heard tonight, what happens if they don't pass inspection? So there's a lot to figure out. So it's not something that's gonna happen like by the end of the year or anything like that. But it is ongoing. Park Commission is moving forward with it. They looked at a lot of scientific studies. They looked at a lot of other lakes that have the same issue and how they're addressing it. And so I'm happy to keep you all, I always attend those meetings.
Great. We appreciate the fact that you do. We appreciate your coming back to report. I do know that 2 meetings ago, when the county's committee on the septic transfer met, that Dave Wick was like on Zoom, and he was part of the discussion that we had at the county level. So it's kind of like we're all trying to work together on it if we can.
Yeah, the county law that was proposed, which as far as I know, has not been adopted, was
No.
just on property transfer.
Yeah.
And I think there's general consensus that's not enough, because, you know, if something's in a trust, if a property is in a trust, it never gets transferred, until it's sold. So there are a lot of properties that just wouldn't be affected by it. And also, the way that law was originally written for the county, towns could opt out of it. So-
Well, that's still part of it, that the towns could opt out, or if the town has their own, like Bolton has theirs, Queensbury has theirs, and Chestertown has theirs. They're saying, you already have your own ordinance for that, then you don't have to be part of it.
Right, but they're all on property transfer, not on.
Right, you're right, that's just on property transfer.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Susan. Anyone else? All right, with
One
that,
thing.
Steve,
Just want to mention one thing. We've got everybody together. I met Casella's representative again up at the transfer station. I met a gentleman from a metal company up there. Moving forward, Phil's working on the signs. And we're going to start working on some pricing and have large signs up there. So we're getting pretty close to having that pretty well put together. The other thing was, I mentioned that I went down to see Bob Keating.
right,
And they're requesting in Pickerel Bay, a couple buoys to keep the people out of the beach area. They've got a beach right down there in Pickerel Bay. And boats keep coming in, between the dock and the beach. So he requested some buoys. We have coordinates on that. I mentioned that to DEC, and of course that's gonna happen this year because they're taking the buoys out of the water.
right.
But I just want to make a note that we did go on Bob Keating, used to
We're
live
still
down
down
here,
here.
and he lives over there now. And he just requested to take a look at it, so something we'll address this spring. We did take a look, and he probably has a valid thing, because again, if they keep coming in between his dock and the beach, it's not a good
Well,
situation.
You're
that's
talking
why-
about the Hague Beach, Steve? Are you speaking about the Hague Beach?
No,
No, Pickerel Beach over.
It's over in Hewlett's.
Ah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I went down there.
And I did put that sheet in your
Yes.
folder to show the process that we told Bob, that's what we would be doing. That's why we
I
figured.
just want to
out-
bring it up and let him know, and for the record, that it was looked at, and I did speak to DEC, and again, they said, well, we'll look at it in the spring, but,
But yeah, we don't take that.
that's
I
gonna
make a
happen.
motion.
Good.
Yes, what is the motion, Marty?
Thank you, Marty.
Jack said, all right, all those in favor, aye. Thank you very much. Good night.